project here. On the left side, you could choose to learn to play an instrument or get other things through there. But in this case, we're just going to start with an empty project because we want to create some very simple background music that we can use inside a project. So you can use this as well. What's great about a GarageBand, it comes with a bunch of software instruments and pre-recorded loops that you can use in your project. So now it says to choose a track type. This is the type of audio that you would be recording if you were doing this from scratch. In our case here, we are going to be using pre-built stuff that's already in there. So it's not too important which one you choose here for your first track. I'm just going to stick with software instrument on the left side here because that's the default, and click on create. Now, when you do that, you may see a number of things show up on your screen. For me, they showed up over on my second screen here that I've connected. So let me bring it over. You might see this software keyboard come up. If that's the case, you can go up to the window menu, and there's an option here that says hide musical typing or Command K. We don't need that keyboard up. This would actually allow you to use your typing keyboard to play music. Kind of cool if you want to record some stuff from scratch. But again, we're just doing very simple pre-recorded loops. We're not going to be building our music from nothing. We're going to use the pre-recorded loops that are in there. So now that we've done that, this is the interface of GarageBand. You're going to go all the way up to the top right corner. You can ignore all the stuff that's here. Go up to the top right corner and hit this middle button here that's actually a loop browser. It's just a little loop icon. And this brings up our loops. And if you've just installed GarageBand on your Mac, like I've done, you might see it here where it says it's indexing the Apple Loops library, but it should bring up the loops at some point then, like we see here. So there are thousands of loops if we start scrolling through this list. There's ones that are going to have this white text and others that'll be faded. If it's faded, that just means it hasn't been installed yet. And you'll see a little download button on the right side if you want to go and download those loops. All of these things here come for free with GarageBand. This is not something you're paying extra for. You can certainly go out and buy additional sounds, things like those music lessons. There are additional things you can buy, but if it just has a little download link here, you can download and install that. This is free content that's inside of GarageBand that comes with the app, and you can just click on any of these loops to play them back. If it's in white, it's already downloaded in there and ready to go. You can see here, though, I have a bunch of kind of random sound effects. I have an ambient beat here, electric piano. These are all mixed together, but we can click on any of these to hear them. Notice at the bottom, we get a little waveform as it's playing back this beat. And when it gets to the end, it just loops back around. That's why these are called loops. They're designed to be something that you can continue over and over and over again. Okay, so those are the sounds there that you have and the loops here. Now this list here, lowest to the lower right corner, over 6,000 items. This is a long list to go through. So at the top, use these searches to find the loop you actually want to use. So if you want a specific instrument, click on instrument. You'll get a list of them at the top here. You can also narrow it down by genre or a specific descriptor here. Now, this gets very complex as you start adding various pieces to your music. So we're going to keep it simple here, just with some drums and maybe a little guitar in here. So I'm just going to pick two pieces of audio that we can use here. Now this search, you can click on multiple items here to narrow down the search even more precisely. So you could have, like in this case, we have all drums. I could have a drum kit versus an actual beat. I can click on those to narrow it down. But even with that, we still have, 1,600 items there. So still a lot of sounds. So again, click on them to hear what they sound like. It's a bit electric there. Let's go down towards the middle here. And again, just clicking on them to hear what they sound like. So if this looks good and I want to use this, I can then just click and drag this into my project to use that loop. And notice you're just dragging it into this gray area here at the bottom, and then let go of it, and it'll add that loop to your project. You don't want to add it to your classical electric piano track that's over here on the left side. We don't actually need that one. So I'm just going to select it and hit the delete key to remove that. But here is my drums that I've added, and I'm going to click and drag this all the way to the left side. Unlike Final Cut Pro's magnetic timeline, this timeline here in GarageBand, you do have to very precisely put each of these pieces of music, these clips essentially, into the spot where you want it to play. So if we want this drums kit here just to be at the beginning, I'll drag it all the way to the left side there so it adds it. To make the loop last for a longer period of time, I can go up to the top right corner of the loop, click and drag this to the right, and then it's looping it over and over and over again. Now, if you're a little bit confused about how much time we're dealing with up here, it's because it's written in a way for musicians. If you're used to reading music and that side of it, this will be familiar with it. However, if you're like me, you're an editor from Final Cut, you're used to seeing things in time. So you can change our little time viewer up here in GarageBand to time, and it'll view it as a length of time, which may be perfect if you're trying to create a piece of audio that's maybe 30 seconds because you're going to create a post for Instagram or another place. You can then edit based on time so it lines things up for you. And then in our timeline here, I'm just using my trackpad here to pinch to zoom out. You can also use this little slider at the top right to zoom in or zoom out. But now that I've changed this time viewer to time instead of being on beats, you'll notice at the top, this is more of a timeline I can see when it gets to about a minute long. Maybe I want to drag out to have my song be 1 minute, and I can do that there. Unlike Final Cut Pro, which has autosave, GarageBand is not saving this stuff automatically. You'll notice at the top center here, it's set as untitled. Make sure to use Command S. Command S saves your project. You want to do this regularly. So in this case, this is just going to be my background loop. So I'm going to call it background loop. If you watch any of my streams, you know you got to name things, label things, and it's just going to save it into the GarageBand folder, which in this case is fine for my purpose here. So now that I have saved it initially, I'm going to periodically be using the Command S shortcut to update and save that project. Make sure you do the same thing, because if GarageBand quits unexpectedly, something weird happens, you're going to lose all those edits that you made in between the last save and when it quit. So now I have some drums, so let's get another song. I'm going to hit the orange X up here to clear my search, and let's just go in and get a guitar. We'll just get an acoustic guitar, and let's get something here. All right, let's grab that Road Trip Summer guitar, put that down. And again, just creating a simple loop. This is not designed to be anything too complex. And I'll drag from the top right to extend that the length of the project. All right, so that's it. I'm happy with this. I'm ready to send this over to Final Cut. So once you have your song mixed and done, you're gonna go up to the share menu, and there's an option here in GarageBand that says share the song to the media browser. And that's actually what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna hit media browser. The app kind of takes over, it goes through and shares that song out. Notice I wasn't asked where I needed to save the project or anything like that. When you share to the media browser, there's nothing else you have to do. All you need to do is go up to share, click song to media browser, and that's it. You're done in GarageBand. So once you've done that, if you haven't saved, use Command S to save, and then you can use Command Q to quit out of GarageBand. I'm going to continue my download of the loops there in the background just so I can get more of those in there. And now that I have saved my song to the media browser, I'm going to go back into Final Cut. And I like to use Spotlight here, so Command Space to bring up Spotlight. I just type in a couple letters in the word Final and hit return, and it knows that I want to go into Final Cut Pro. Now, where is the media browser inside of Final Cut Pro 10? If you go up to the top left corner of the browser, we have a couple items here, and this essentially lets you browse the media, these two tabs here. There's the photo and audio sidebar here, which goes into apps like your Photos app or music. Apple Music is accessible there. And we also have GarageBand. The third one over goes into titles and generators, but really this middle one here, this is your media browser, and this is allowing us to browse the media that's on this computer that has been shared. So I can see all the built-in sound effects. I can see music. This is from your music app. And then above that, we have GarageBand itself. If you have these apps installed, you'll see them. So I have Logic installed. I see that as well. And then, of course, Photos is up at the top there. So if I click on GarageBand, notice here, my background loop is already in here. Didn't have to do anything else. It's there ready to go. Because we shared it from GarageBand, it put it right in there. And if I want to use this in the project, I just click and drag that background loop down into my project, and there it is now on the primary storyline. I can increase the size of this just so it's easier to see, but there's my background loop. If I hit the space bar, now we hear that loop. And you can see we made this project about a minute long. If we needed to make any changes to this, we would just go back into GarageBand, make the changes, and then share it to the media browser again. So that's the first topic I wanted to cover, which is how you can create background music using tools you should already have, like GarageBand. And the one thing to remember about this that a lot of newer editors just don't even think about is the reason you would go through these steps is this music is royalty free. This is music you can use without having to go and get the rights to it. If you just use someone's song that they've created, most likely that song is restricted, it's protected, and someone has the rights to it, so you can't just go and publish that onto YouTube or share your video out to somewhere. And that's kind of a pain if you spend a lot of time editing a video and you go to share it, and then all of a sudden it's saying, no, you can't post this on YouTube, or someone else is going to be able to post it and get the ad revenue, things like that. So that's a big reason you want to do this and get those loops in there. Now, if you do want much better music, that's where you're going to have to go and pay for it, or have someone teach you how you can mix all of that stuff together, because just like video editing is a complex process, audio is just as complex, if not even more complex, with some of the things that you can do there. All right, so that's the first topic I wanted to cover, which is getting those loops in. The second topic I want to cover is how do you get with this third tab over here? You have these titles and generators.